The colony of New Horizons sprawled across the jagged cliffs of Epsilon Prime, a frontier outpost where humanity's ambition met the stars. Its marketplace buzzed with life, a chaotic symphony of alien dialects, clinking trade goods, and the hum of repurposed machinery. Humans, with their knack for improvisation, had turned the barren world into a thriving hub, attracting species from across the galaxy. But not all visitors came in peace. Dr. Emily Carter adjusted the strap of her satchel as she navigated the crowded bazaar. Her sharp green eyes scanned the stalls, noting the subtle tensions that simmered beneath the surface. As the colony's chief xenobiologist, she was the de facto diplomat, the one who smoothed over misunderstandings before they escalated into conflicts. Today, however, the air felt heavier, charged with an unspoken threat. "Emily!" a voice called out, cutting through the din. Michael Mike Johnson waved from behind a makeshift counter, his hands smeared with grease. A wiry man with a perpetual grin, Mike was the colony's resident engineer, a genius at turning scrap into solutions. His stall was a chaotic jumble of salvaged tech, from jury-rigged plasma cutters to half-finished drones. "I've got that modulator you asked for," he said, holding up a device that looked like it had been cobbled together from spare parts. Emily smiled, though her mind was elsewhere. "Thanks, Mike, I'll need it for the comms array. The Crothar have been jamming our signals again." Mike's grin faded. "Those brutes wouldn't know diplomacy if it bit them. Speaking of which," he nodded toward the far end of the market, where a towering Crothar warrior was causing a scene. Gralk, a hulking figure with armored skin and a temper as volatile as a supernova, was arguing with Sophia Martinez. Sophia, a petite woman with a cascade of dark curls, stood her ground, her voice calm but firm. As the colony's linguist and artist, she believed in the power of words to bridge divides. But Gralk wasn't interested in conversation. Humans are weak," Gralk snarled, his voice like grinding stone. "You hide behind your machines and your pretty words, but strength is what matters." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "Strength isn't just about muscles, it's about resilience, adaptability, something your people could learn from." The insult hit its mark. Gralk's fist shot out, striking Sophia square in the jaw. She crumpled to the ground, the marketplace falling silent. Emily was at her, sighed in an instant, her medical training kicking in. "Sophia, are you okay?" Sophia winced, touching her swelling cheek. "I've had worse," she muttered, though her voice trembled. Before Emily could respond, a low whistle cut through the tension. James "Jimmy" O'Connor stepped into the fray, his hands in his pockets and a lazy smirk on his face. Tall and broad-shouldered, with a shock of unruly red hair, Jimmy was the colony's wild card, a former mercenary with a reputation for trouble. But today his easygoing demeanor was a stark contrast to the storm brewing around him. "Well, well," Jimmy drawled, his eyes locked on Grok. "Didn't your mama teach you it's rude to hit a lady?" Grok bristled, his fists clenching. "How you dare mock me, human?" Jimmy shrugged. "Just making an observation. You've got a lot of muscle, but not much upstairs, huh?" The Crothar lunged, but Jimmy sidestepped with the grace of a seasoned fighter. He didn't strike back, though. Instead, he kept talking, his tone light and mocking. "You know, if you're trying to prove how strong you are, punching someone half your size isn't the way to do it. Makes you look kind of pathetic, actually," Gralk roared, swinging wildly, but Jimmy dodged each blow with infuriating ease. The crowd watched in stunned silence, unsure whether to laugh or flee. Emily exchanged a glance with Mike, who was already moving to reinforce the colony's defenses. "This isn't over," she murmured. "Gralk's just the tip of the spear." As if on cue, Grok stopped his assault, breathing heavily. "This isn't the end, human," he spat. "You'll regret crossing the Crothar." Jimmy tipped an imaginary hat, looking forward to it. With a final glare, Gralk stormed off, his entourage trailing behind him. The marketplace slowly returned to life, though the air remained thick with unease. Emily helped Sophia to her feet, her mind racing. "We need to prepare. If the Crothar are testing us, it's only a matter of time before they strike." Jimmy joined them, his smirk fading. "They're planning something big, I could see it in his eyes." Sophia rubbed her jaw, her determination undimmed. We can't let them intimidate us. If we show them we're not afraid, maybe we can avoid a fight. Mike shook his head. With all due respect, Sophia, I don't think they're interested in talking. We need to be ready for anything. Emily nodded, her gaze sweeping over her team. Each of them brought something unique to the table. Mike's ingenuity, Sophia's idealism, Jimmy's unpredictability. Together they were more than the sum of their parts. We'll figure this out, she said, her voice steady. But we need to work together. The Crothar think we're weak. Let's show them how wrong they are. As the group dispersed to their tasks, Jimmy lingered, his eyes on the horizon where Gralk had disappeared. This is gonna get messy, he muttered. Emily placed a hand on his shoulder. Maybe, but if anyone can handle messy, it's you. He grinned, the spark of mischief returning to his eyes. Damn right. The colony of New Horizons stood on the brink of a storm, its fate hanging in the balance. But as Emily watched, her team prepare for the challenges ahead, she felt a flicker of hope. The Crothar had underestimated humanity before. They wouldn't make that mistake again. The colony of New Horizon buzzed with activity, but the energy was different now, sharper, more urgent. The incident with Gralk had been a spark, and the flames of tension were spreading. Dr. Emily Carter stood in the command center, a converted storage room filled with flickering holographic displays and hastily assembled equipment. Her team gathered around her, their faces etched with determination. We've got a problem, Mike said, his voice tight as he pulled up a map of the colony. The Crothar have been sabotaging our infrastructure. Power grids, water filtration, comms, they're hitting us where it hurts. Sophia frowned, her fingers tracing the lines of the map. They're testing us, seeing how we react under pressure. Jimmy leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. Or they're softening us up for a full-scale attack. Either way, we can't just sit here and take it. Emily nodded, her mind racing. We need to be proactive. Mike, what can we do to reinforce our defenses? Mike's eyes lit up as he launched into a rapid-fire explanation. I've been working on a few ideas. We can rig up motion sensors around the perimeter, powered by solar cells. They won't stop the Crothar, but they'll give us an early warning. And if we repurpose some of the old mining drones, we can use them to patrol the outskirts. Good, Emily said. Get on it, Sophia. I need you to keep trying to communicate with the Crothar. If there's even a chance we can avoid a fight, we have to take it. Sophia hesitated. Gralk didn't seem too interested in talking last time. I know, Emily replied, but we can't give up. Understanding their motives might be the key to stopping this. Jimmy pushed off the wall, his smirk returning. And what about me? You going to send me out to charm them with my winning personality? Emily gave him a wry smile. Actually, I need you and Mike to infiltrate their camp. We need intel, what they're planning, how many of them there are, anything that can give us an edge. Jimmy's grin widened. Now you're talking. The Crothar camp was a stark contrast to the bustling colony of New Horizon. Nestled in a rocky canyon, it was a grim fortress of jagged metal and flickering firelight. Jimmy and Mike crouched behind a boulder, their faces illuminated by the glow of Mike's handheld scanner. This is a bad idea, Mike muttered, adjusting the device. A really, really bad idea. Jimmy shrugged. Relax, Mikey. We've got this. We've got nothing, Mike shot back. This scanner is held together by duct tape and hope. If it fails, we're blind. Then let's hope it doesn't fail, Jimmy said, his tone light but his eyes sharp. Come on, stay close. They moved through the shadows, their footsteps silent on the rocky ground. The camp was eerily quiet, the only sounds the crackle of fires and the occasional growl of Crothar voices. Jimmy's instincts were on high alert, every sense tuned to the danger around them. Mike's scanner beeped softly, and he gestured toward a large tent at the center of the camp. That's where they're keeping their plans. If we can get in and out without being seen. Yeah, Jimmy interrupted. In and out, easy. They slipped past a pair of guards, their movements quick and precise. Inside the tent, they found a crude map of the colony, marked with red lines and symbols. Mike's eyes widened as he scanned the details. They're planning a full-scale assault, he whispered. They're going to hit us from multiple angles, overwhelm our defenses. Jimmy studied the map, his jaw tightening. We need to get this back to Emily. She'll know what to do. As they turned to leave, a low growl stopped them in their tracks. Gralk stood in the entrance, his massive frame blocking their escape. His eyes gleamed with malice as he stepped forward. I knew you would come, he rumbled. Humans are predictable, weak. Jimmy's smirk returned, though his muscles were coiled like springs. Predictable, huh? Guess you didn't see this coming. He grabbed a nearby crate and hurled it at Gralk, creating enough distraction for Mike to bolt. Jimmy followed, weaving through the camp, with Gralk hot on his heels. The Crothars. Roars echoed through the canyon as they ran, the camp erupting into chaos. Mike's scanner beeped frantically as they reached the edge of the camp. We've got company, he shouted, pointing to a group of Crothar warriors closing in. Jimmy didn't hesitate. He pulled a small device from his belt, a homemade smoke bomb, and tossed it into the air. Thick clouds of smoke billowed out, obscuring their escape. They sprinted into the darkness, the sounds of pursuit fading behind them. Back at the colony, Emily listened as Mike and Jimmy recounted their mission. Her expression grew grim as they described the Crothars' plans. They're coming, Mike said, his voice tense, and they're not holding back. Sophia looked at Emily, her eyes filled with determination. We can't let them destroy everything we've built. There has to be another way. Emily nodded, her mind racing. We'll use their arrogance against them. If they think we're weak, we'll show them just how strong we can be. Jimmy leaned back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. Sounds like fun. As the team began to formulate their plan, the weight of the challenge settled over them. The Crothar were a formidable enemy, but they had underestimated humanity before, and this time they would learn just how costly that mistake could be. The colony of New Horizon was a fortress in the making. Mike's improvised defenses hummed with life, a patchwork of salvaged tech and sheer ingenuity. Motion sensors lined the perimeter, their green lights blinking like watchful eyes. Repurposed. Mining drones hovered above, their cameras scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Inside the command center, Emily Carter stood at the helm, her team gathered around her. They'll come at night, Mike said, pointing to the holographic map. Their armor reflects heat, so our thermal sensors won't pick them up until... They're close, but the motion sensors should give us a heads up. Sophia leaned forward, her fingers tracing the projected lines. What if we use the drones to drop flares, light up the battlefield and blind them temporarily? Jimmy grinned. I like the way you think, Sophia. Nothing like a little chaos to even the odds. Emily nodded, her expression focused. Do. Hit and Mike, I need you to rig up some noisemakers, anything to disorient them. We'll use their reliance on brute force against them. Mike's eyes lit up. I've got just the thing, some old sonic emitters from the mining equipment. They'll hate that. As the team worked, the tension in the air was palpable. The Crothar were coming, and there was no room for error. Night fell like a heavy blanket, the stars obscured by thick clouds. The colony was eerily quiet, the usual hum of activity replaced by an anxious stillness. Emily stood on the observation deck, her eyes scanning the darkness. Beside her, Jimmy adjusted the scope on his rifle, his movements calm and deliberate. You think they'll take the bait? He asked, his voice low. They're arrogant, Emily replied. They'll come straight at us thinking we're defenseless. That's their mistake. A faint beep broke the silence. Mike's voice crackled over the comms. Motion sensors. Triggered. They're here. Emily's heart raced, but her voice remained steady. Everyone positions. Remember the plan. The first wave of Crothar emerged from the shadows, their hulking forms silhouetted against the faint glow of the colony's lights. They moved with purpose, their armored feet crunching against the rocky ground. Now, Emily said. The drones descended, dropping flares that ignited in bursts of blinding light. The Crothar roared, their advance faltering as they shielded their eyes. Mike's sonic emitters kicked in next, filling the air with a high-pitched whine that sent the aliens stumbling. That's it, Sophia whispered, her hands clenched into fists. Keep them off balance. But the Crothar were relentless. Gralk led the charge, his voice booming over the chaos. Destroy them, crush their defenses. Jimmy took aim, his finger hovering over the trigger. Time to even the odds, he muttered, firing a shot that struck a Krothar warrior in the shoulder. The alien staggered but didn't fall, his armor absorbing most of the impact. "They're tougher than they look," Jimmy said, reloading. Emily's voice crackled over the comms. "Fall back to the secondary perimeter. We need to draw them in." The team retreated, luring the Krothar deeper into the colony. The aliens followed, their confidence growing as they pushed forward. But they didn't notice the traps Mike had set, pressure plates that triggered explosive charges, nets that dropped from above, and walls that collapsed to block their path. Gralk roared in frustration, his voice echoing through the night. "Enough of these tricks. Face us, humans." Emily stepped into the open, her hands raised. "We're right here, Gralk, but if you want to fight, you'll have to catch us first." The Krothar leader snarled, charging toward her, but before he could reach her, Jimmy intercepted him, tackling the alien to the ground. The two grappled, their movements a blur of fists and fury. "You're strong," Jimmy admitted, dodging a punch. "But you're not as smart as you think." Gralk swung again, but Jimmy ducked, using the alien's momentum against him. He landed a solid blow to Gralk's side, the impact reverberating through his armored skin. Meanwhile, the rest of the team worked to contain the other Krothar. Sophia used her knowledge of their language to broadcast a message, her voice calm but firm. "This doesn't have to end in bloodshed," she said. "We can coexist, but if you continue this attack, you'll only prove that strength without wisdom is meaningless." Some of the Krothar hesitated, their aggression wavering. But Gralk was undeterred. He broke free from Jimmy's grasp, his eyes blazing with fury. "Enough!" he bellowed. "I'll crush you myself." Jimmy smirked, though his breathing was labored. "You can try." The two clashed again, their fight a brutal dance of strength and strategy. Jimmy's movements were unpredictable, his tactics unorthodox. He used the environment to his advantage, dodging and weaving, always staying one step ahead. Finally, he saw his opening. Gralk lunged, overextending himself. Jimmy sidestepped, delivering a precise strike to the alien's knee. Gralk stumbled, his balance faltering. "You're strong," Jimmy said, standing over him, "but strength isn't everything." Gralk glared up at him, his pride wounded but his respect grudgingly earned. "You fight well, human, but this isn't over." Emily stepped forward, her presence commanding. "It is over, Gralk. Your warriors are retreating. You've lost." The Krothar leader looked around, realizing the truth of her words. His forces were in disarray, their confidence shattered. With a growl of frustration, he rose to his feet. "We will meet again," he said, his voice low. "And next time, we will not underestimate you." As the Krothar retreated into the night, the colony erupted in cheers. The team gathered together, their exhaustion tempered by triumph. "We did it," Sophia said, her voice filled with awe. Jimmy clapped her on the shoulder. "We sure did, but let's not get too comfortable. They'll be back." Emily nodded, her gaze fixed on the horizon. "And when they come, we'll be ready." The aftermath of the battle left New Horizons scarred but unbroken. The colony's defenses had held, but the cost was evident in the scorch marks on the walls and the weary faces of its inhabitants. Yet, amidst the damage, there was a palpable sense of triumph. The Krothar had been repelled, and for the first time in weeks the air felt lighter. Dr. Emily Carter stood at the edge of the marketplace, her arms crossed as she surveyed the repairs underway. Mike's drones buzzed overhead, their mechanical arms welding broken beams and patching holes. Sophia Martinez was nearby, her voice calm and reassuring as she spoke with a group of settlers, and Jimmy O'Connor, ever the wild card, leaned against a stack of crates, his smirk firmly in place despite the bandage wrapped around his forearm. "We did good," Jimmy said, as Emily approached. "We did," she agreed, though her tone was measured. "But this isn't over. Gralk said they'd be back, and I don't think he was bluffing." Jimmy shrugged. "Let them come. We'll be ready." Emily's gaze softened as she looked at him. "You took a big risk out there, Jimmy. Tackling Gralk head-on, that was reckless." He grinned. "Maybe. But it worked, didn't it?" Before Emily could respond, Mike jogged over, his face flushed with excitement. "You're not going to believe this," he said, holding up a small device. "I've been analyzing the Crothar's tech, and I think I've figured out how to boost our comms array. If we can get it working, we might be able to send a signal to the nearest Federation outpost." Sophia joined them, her eyes lighting. "If we can get help, we won't have to face the Crothar alone next time." Emily nodded, her mind racing. "Do it, Mike, but keep it quiet. If the Crothar find out we're calling for backup, they might attack before we're ready." As Mike hurried off, Sophia turned to Emily. "There's something else. I've been studying the Crothar's language, and I think I've found a way to communicate with them on a deeper level. If we can show them that we're not a threat, maybe we can avoid another fight." Jimmy raised an eyebrow. "You really think they'll listen?" "It's worth a try," Sophia said firmly. "Violence isn't the only way to win a war." Emily placed a hand on Sophia's shoulder. "Do what you can, but be careful. The Crothar aren't exactly known for their patience." Over. The next few days, the colony worked tirelessly to rebuild and prepare. Mike's comms array came to life, its signal reaching out into the void. Sophia spent hours crafting a message to the Crothar, her words carefully chosen to appeal to their sense of honor and pride. And Jimmy, ever the enigma, kept watch on the perimeter, his sharp eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of movement. Then, one evening, as the sun dipped below the cliffs, the Crothar returned. This time, they came not as a war party but as a delegation. Gralk led the group, his massive frame towering over the others. His expression was unreadable, but there was a flicker of something in his eyes, respect perhaps, or curiosity. Emily stepped forward to meet him, her team flanking her. "Gralk," she said, her voice steady, "why have you come?" Thintor. Crothar leader crossed his arms, his voice a low rumble. "You fought well, human. Better than we expected, but we are not here to fight. We are here to talk." Sophia's eyes widened, and she stepped forward. "We're listening." Gralk's gaze shifted to her, his expression softening slightly. "Your words reached us. You spoke of strength and wisdom, of resilience and adaptability. These are things we value, though we do not often show it." Emily exchanged a glance with her team, a flicker of hope igniting in her chest. "We believe there's room for both our peoples in this galaxy, but we can't coexist if we're constantly at each other's throats." Gralk nodded slowly. "Perhaps you are right, but trust is not easily earned." "It doesn't have to be," Sophia said. "We can start small, trade, cultural exchange, a chance to learn from each other." The Crothar leader considered her words, his expression thoughtful. Then, with a grunt, he extended a massive hand. "We will try, but if you betray us, there will be no mercy." Emily shook his hand, her grip firm. "Understood." As the Crothar departed, the colony erupted in cheers. The threat of war had been averted, at least for now, and the future felt brighter than it had in weeks. Later that night, the team gathered in the command center, their exhaustion tempered by a sense of accomplishment. Mike leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smile on his face. "I'd say we earned a break, maybe even a celebration." Sophia laughed, her eyes sparkling. "I'll drink to that." Jimmy raised an imaginary glass. "To humanity, the galaxy's underdogs." Emily smiled, her gaze sweeping over her. "See, we did this together, and whatever comes next, we'll face it together too." As the group shared a moment of quiet camaraderie, the weight of the past weeks seemed to lift. The road ahead would be challenging, but they had proven that humanity's greatest strength was its ability to adapt, to innovate, and to unite in the face of adversity. And as the stars twinkled above New Horizon, the colony stood as a beacon of hope, a testament to what could be achieved when diverse minds came together to overcome the impossible.